And I didn't have it in front of me because I really didn't plan on talking about this. We just kind of ventured into the topic. But talking about states and experiments and things like that, this woman had to have this drug. She was diagnosed with cancer. The drug was terribly expensive. She had Oregon. She lived in Oregon, so she had their state-sponsored socialized medicine. Oregon says, no, that drug's too expensive. However, they sent her a letter. We do pay for assisted suicide. So there's your...
What?
Yeah. We won't give you the medicine to make you better, or to prolong your life, because it wasn't going to save her life, but it was going to prolong it so she could be with her family longer and her children. But no, we'll help you kill yourself. Now, thank God the pharmaceutical companies somehow got wind of this, and they offered her the drug at no charge. You know those evil pharmaceutical companies that are only in it for the profit? You remember them guys, right? Yeah, they offered it to her for free. And she did eventually die, God bless her, but she got to spend more time with her family. And one of our listeners chatted in and said that remember Obama saying sometimes all you need to do is take a pain pill. Yeah, that's right. He did say that, and that's the liberal attitude. You know, why spend all this money on somebody when we're only going to prolong their life by a year? Well, you know what? If that's my daughter or my son, or if that's my mom or my dad's gone. I'd give anything for another year with him. I'd give anything for another day with him. So, yeah, socialized medicine, and you still get people online. I'm going to stop doing it, but I have a friend that's in a. He was a founding member of a band from Britain. He has 6 gold records under his belt. One of the most amazing guitarists I've ever known. Plays the kind of music, actually, Brandon, that's more along your lines, because Brandon likes the heavier, real hard metal stuff.
Are you speaking of Iron Maiden?
Well, it wasn't Iron Maiden, but it was a band from the UK called Stiff Little Fingers, and
yeah, okay.
I know one of the original. In fact, whenever I used to work with bands, I took a band out to Sturgis, and he actually ended up being the guitar player for that band. So I know him personally, and he thinks it's horrible that America doesn't have single payer health insurance, because he thinks he's convinced that's the way to go. But I reminded him that it's been how many decades since he's lived in the UK. And 40 years ago, maybe it wasn't so bad, but, you read articles all the time about people that get diagnosed or miss a diagnosis because they wait forever on a test and they end up dying of cancer. Or about all these women that are having babies in the hallways of hospitals because there's no rooms for them. But yet, socialized medicine's the way to go. So it's just amazing how many people still believe that. But that's the liberal mindset. Always go to the government. The government's always the answer.
Trust the government. Trust the government. Yeah. And, just moving right along, let's go into the trust the government part real fast here.
Okay.
I've got an article for you. And you know me, since I'm the Second Amendment advocate, gun rights across America. Chicago's top cop warns that his officers will shoot concealed carriers.
Say that again.
Chicago's police superintendent, the top cop, warns that his officers will shoot concealed carriers.
How do they know that how do they know they're carrying if they're concealed?
Yeah, well, this is what he says.
So evidently they're just going to start shooting citizens at random.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Mona wants to know if he has X-ray eyes like Superman.
Here's what he said to on television.
All right.
I got the transcript. Okay, you put more guns on the street, expect more shootings. McCarthy said, and I will destroy that here in a second. I don't care if they licensed legal firearms. People who are not highly trained putting guns in their hands is a recipe for disaster. Oh man! So I'll train our officers that there is a conceal and carry law, but when somebody turns with a firearm in their hand, the officer does not have an obligation to wait to get shot and to return fire. And we're going to have tragedies as a result of that. I'm telling you that right up front. In other words, he's training his officers to shoot concealed carriers if they happen to see their gun.
Okay, how many? I'm going to ask you a question there, Brandon. And for all our listeners out there, please, chime in on chat. Pretty sure you can get to the chat by going to Spreaker.com and looking up our show. How many concealed carrier citizens do you think are going to be pulling their gun on officers?
Well, to me, zero. And not only that, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, okay, concealed carrier has to pull his gun. He's got somebody at gunpoint. He calls the cops. Instead of trying to figure out which one is the criminal and which one is the good guy, just shoot them both. That's pretty much what he's saying.
Yep.
And you put more guns on the streets, expect more shootings. This is what he said. I'm going to destroy that in less than a second here. Since we got conceal and carry, okay?
Uh-huh.
Since we got conceal and carry, there hasn't been one shooting. They said there's going to be blood in the streets and everybody and the traffic stops and people are going to be killing everybody. Not one conceal and carrier has had to fire, or fired in anger. There's been already,
you're
incidents.
Talking about in Illinois, right?
In Illinois. So I don't know where he's getting his data, but according to the FBI and the statistics in Chicago, and according to the Cook County Sheriff, who said there was going to be blood in the streets as well, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I have not heard or found of one incident where a concealed carrier just got disgruntled and decided to shoot somebody.
Yeah.
And there has not been blood in the streets. It was not the Wild West like they claimed. In fact, crime has gone down drastically since conceal and carry has passed. But, that's neither here nor there. They do not care about statistics or the truths.
There you go, right there. Yeah, another thing that friend of mine on Facebook is always ranting about is people that kill animals with their weapon, hunters. They think it's cruel when those poor little animals didn't have a chance. And so I said, one day I said, have you ever lived in an area where there's a big deer population? And have you ever lived in an area where maybe the hunting season has been shortened or the amount that you can bag has been lowered? What happens is the deer population begins to get out of control, and then you have deers being slaughtered on the highways because they run in front of cars because there's more deers. You also have people that are getting into accidents, and in some cases, if a car hits a deer, it can result in death for the human. This isn't just a crumpled fender always that we're talking about. It can throw you into the path of an oncoming vehicle. It can throw you into a tree, a culvert, anything. So, yeah, animal versus hunter, no, they don't really have a chance. But that's kind of been going on since our caveman days whenever they decided that they could take their clubs and go out and hunt, call the weak one from the herd, and then they'd have something to eat on and something to make their clothing with. So, this isn't anything new. What I am against, and I'll say this right now, and I've said it before, and I don't know that there's a lot of it, but I bet there's probably more than we realize. But these guys that'll go out and shoot something just to be saying they shot something and go off and leave it, just like sport hunting, just doing it for sport. I don't find a lot of that happening. I think usually people that go to the effort and time to go out in the woods and be um, stealthy enough to be able to bag an animal like that, they're going to use, they're going to use the meat. They're going to skin it. They're going to use everything they can from that animal. But um, the trophy hunters that maybe just want to use the antlers or whatever and leave the rest lay, I kind of have a problem with that. I do. I don't know that there's a lot of that, but I would imagine there's some of that goes on.
How do you feel about hunting coyote then? Oh, wise one.
Well, I don't have a problem with that if they're a predator and you're in an area where there's, say, for example, in the southwestern part of the United States where you have ranchers. Some of them have coyote problems down there, just like some of them have bobcat problems down there. So I don't have a problem with killing them. I mean, I know you're not going to eat that meat, but that's kind of different. That's not just going out and doing it for sport.
I'm not quite that hungry, but I know people that actually have.
Of eating coyote?
Yep.
Or bobcat.
Or bobcat.
Unlike our president, I've never eaten a dog, but I've had squirrel stew before.
Squirrel's too greasy for me and chewy. I don't like it. Not a big fan.
Okay. Well, I've had squirrel stew. I liked it, but I've never had rabbit. I never had frog legs. Pretty much a chicken, beef, pork guy. So, anyway.
Well, and I'm gonna go off on the coyote again, just on a little bit of a tangent here.
All right.
I got a story to tell you about one time when we went coyote hunting.
Go for it.
Okay. Excuse me. I decided I left my big rifle at home and took my AR, which I do set up for coyote hunting. And me and a good friend of mine, we're high tech hunters, man. We had headsets with throat mics on, and he's like 400 something yards to my right. And I hear his gun go off, and I hear him yell over the radio, "Dang it, I missed him. He's coming your way. I know you can't hit him. He's like, according to the rangefinder where I'm at now," and he's telling me this as it's running. He's like, it's 200 or almost 300 yards out. It's like 254 yards. It kept running back and forth. He's like, it's running between 250 and 300. Meanwhile, he's yelling this. I'm seeing it in the scope, and of course my microphone's completely quiet. He said all he heard was pop, 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 and then he heard me get over the radio, and he heard, ah! He's like, "What are you laughing about?" He goes, "There's no way you hit it." He looked. He took his scope, pointed to the field, and there was a lump of fur. He's like, "I don't know how you just did that." I was like, the first two shots landed way away from him. And it was like the third shot landed right underneath him, and so the fourth shot got him right in the rib cage. He's like, I hate you. Because earlier that day, the moral of the story is earlier that day we were arguing about bolt action versus semi-auto. He's like, you're never going to be able to use that semi-auto. You won't have time. You won't be able to hit nothing with it. So it's the reason why we were out on this particular farm is they have a lot of chickens, and the poor guy would buy 50 or 60 chickens. He had 100. He had like 130 in total. In 1 month's time, he was down to 80.
Wow.
They were killing his chickens off wholesale.
Coyotes were.
Yep, and the guy called me up. He was just a friend of mine. He called me up and he said, "Bring your rifle if you want to have some fun." And I basically went hunting coyote dens.
There you go.
They are a vermin, and I'm there.
Do traps
where I'm
work
at.
for something like that? That type of a problem?
Not unless you want your arm made off. We did a live trap one time, and it didn't work out so good.
I was thinking about the big cage with the one-way door on it.
We tried that.
Didn't work.
No, because obviously we're not